Shalom, brothers
Shalom,
and
everybody.
sisters. Shabbat tov to my
Yeah.
mishpachah.
So Johnny and I are sitting here talking about motivations,
Mm.
different types of motivations. Two main ones actually in the
Mhm.
world. All right, so there's
yeah.
motivation that you see the Pharisees have. Motivations, they still are able to keep the commandments, to keep the laws, but they're doing it with the wrong motivation or wrong intentions, right? And then there's that motivation, the true motivation, which is love. that that is stronger.
Yeah. So
Alright.
there's a greater motivation, and it's shown by David. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so when I want to go before David even, because this is really about the priesthood. It's about the Levitical and Melchizedek priesthood, right? So way back, day 6 of creation, man was created, right? And they were given dominion over the animals. They were to till the ground, and they were to be fruitful and multiply, right? And they were also given the trees of the garden to eat. Okay? And they were blessed.
Bam.
And then the animals on the same day were also blessed, but if you notice, they were not given of the trees to eat. They were only given the herb of the field. Oh, interesting. Okay, so does that maybe imply that they were not eating from the tree of life? Only men and women were.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, so then we fast forward and we look at Jacob and Esau and their blessings that they received from their father Isaac. Isaac blesses both of them. He blesses Jacob, and then Esau realizes that he took his firstborn blessing. And he's like, Dad, can you still give me a blessing? And he does. He gives him a blessing. And the animals also receive a blessing. Esau, representing the animal nature, receive the blessing. But Jacob, receives the blessing and the dominion over the animal, and meaning that he is going to have dominion or rule over Edomites, rule over his brother. That's part of the blessing.
Right.
Okay, so that's interesting. And then we're looking at Esau and his motivation, similar to the animalistic nature. And so Esau, when he's getting the bowl of lentils from his brother, he comes in from the field from hunting, and he says, I'm so hungry, I'm going to die, basically. So death is his motivation, right? And that's a weak motivation because it's fear. And the fear is what caused him to lose the birthright from his brother Jacob. Okay? Is there anything you'd like to say before we continue?
Oh, I mean, it's just so deep, this motivation that we should be tapping into for doing everything. It's just, I think it's fabulous.
Yes. So in the garden, back to the garden, they were given the one commandment, which is not to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or else they will die. So that's what Yah intended for Adam and Eve not to have happen. Not to say that wasn't planned. It's implied that Yah did not want that to happen, and that's not his intention. And so Yah always gets his way in the end, So
Hallelujah.
But so when they do eat the fruit, all their descendants, us included, everybody who comes from Adam and Eve, experience death.
Humanity.
And so death now is a part of our motivation. We do things a lot of the time out of fear, and we can do great things out of fear, but it's not the strongest motivation. And this is where we're going to jump into David and Goliath and how he shows this new picture of the Melchizedek priesthood as opposed to Levitical. Okay, so when the Philistines come out with Goliath against the Israelites, Saul tells all the Israelites, whoever defeats this guy and goes out to battle, I'll give him money, I'll give him women, I'll give his father a place at my house or a place to stay. Okay, and that is not enough motivation for anybody in the face of death, in the face of Goliath, right? And that's what this picture is about.
Yeah.
And so that is not strong enough. And David, we know, conquers Goliath. And so he shows the truer and more powerful motivation that overcomes death in the face of death. And what is that? It's love. So love David shows by providing all of the Israelites bread and cheese or milk. I can't remember exactly, maybe different translations. So he provides, and then they become his flock because, like David was saying, he implied that he fights off bears for for his flock, because
That's
they're
right.
his and he's caring about his father's flock, right? So his motivation is off of himself. It's all for the Father and all for the Father's
Hallelujah.
people. And so that being a higher, truer motivation can conquer death in the face, and that's what he does when he defeats Goliath.
Man.
So this goes to the priesthood, the Melchizedek priesthood, that Yahushua overcame death and took death away from us.
Bam.
So now if death is gone from us,
Mm-hmm.
and we know that we have eternity in the kingdom, what is the point of sinning? If you think about it deeply enough, that sin actually is always rooted in fear of death.
Right.
All right, so, and you might think that's kind of weird off the top, but I'm going to give you an example. So,
In doubt.
doubt, yes. So sin can often be to seek comfort, you know? Sin can be to go farthest place, like my ego, my pride wants this status or something, and sin is the way I get there, you know? And there's a righteous way of getting there, but there's also the wrong motivation. And when we take the path of the wrong motivation, that's sin, okay? And so what the problem is hold on, I'm losing my train of thought. One second. Johnny, you got anything to say?
The problem with is that's holding us back from the ultimate reality of loving in the way that Yah intended for us to love is these obstructions of fear and doubt of the truth, right? And so that's what we're trying to figure out, how to implement lifestyle changes that would make it more rewarding or easily, more uplift, more for us to put away doubt and fear and tap into this higher way of to do it with love, and our intentions have a lot of things to do with it.
Yes. Okay,
But,
so I'll
you know.
go back to it. Thank you, Johnny, for doing that. I remember what I was talking
Like,
about.
yeah.
I remember what the point I was making. So
Yeah.
let's use stealing as an example, right? So if I steal, first of all, I'm making myself more important than somebody else. So that's obviously not loving my neighbor as myself. So that's transgressing the love, right? But also, it's me seeking something. It's me in my pursuit of stealing something to give myself something to give me this sense of comfort, this sense of, now I have protection. Let's say I stole money. Now I can do this. Now I can do that. But I pursued it in the wrong way. So I have this money, and that's taking me farther away from discomfort. It's taking me to this place of now I have money, and now I have comfort, and I'm not going to die. So there's the fear of death.
Right.
It was out of the pursuit of the fear of death, which is the weaker motivation. So if death now does not exist, the truest form of love is faith in Messiah.
Bam.
Because now we do not have death, and the point of that, I believe, was to give us the stronger motivation in order to naturally not sin.
Bam.
So we have strength now, stronger ability not to fall in the face of death, not to fall in the face of fear, not to fall in the face of sin, when our faith is strong enough, knowing that our Messiah has broken death for us, that we are over death. We have conquered it through him and through our faith in him. So now, if you have, and this is when it comes down to faith, the stronger your faith, the less you are susceptible to sin, because the less susceptible you are to the fear of death.
Right. So in religious circles, people say that they're not saved by their works, right? We're saved by Messiah's works. And that's why we do what he did, and we become like him. Yeah. It's him in us increasing.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I think a lot of people don't understand. It's like they think it's faith. They use faith, which is faith, but they use it as a mental assent instead of a power that gives us life-changing, behaviors, and we becoming more like our Messiah. And that's what we're all striving for. I realize that, but so then we're realizing that the things that are hindering us from that is the motivations through fear and how we're perceiving to do Yah's will here on earth.
Yes.
So that's why our intentions and motivations have a lot to do with doing it the way Yah wants us to do it for His glory, in our lives and in everybody else's lives,
Hallelujah. Yeah,
I am.
and in that aspect, one last thing of thankfulness too, because
Oh,
you
yeah.
see in Cain and Abel, the first story after the Garden of Eden, is you have one son who shows his thankfulness by giving the best of his flock, right? And he gives, and he understands, he's aware that the only reason I have this is because you've given it to me, and so he's thankful and he recognizes this is yours anyway, and so he's and in that thankfulness, true love and the higher form of following the commandments or obedience to the Father and doing what pleases Him resulted in a blessing for Abel, whereas Cain gave Yah not the best fruit that he had. He gave him the fruit of his ground, and so this represents entitlement, not as strong of thankfulness. And so the beautiful thing is that Messiah is the greatest gift you can possibly achieve, and the only way to know that is if you understand the Levitical priesthood, because then you know what you're worthy of. We are all worthy of death and condemnation.
Right.
And so us being saved from that and saved from death, which is what they experienced in the garden, then we, in our understanding and faith, we know that we have been given the greatest gift. And so in appreciation for that, we are able to transcend the heights, higher heights than even Abel reached with his thankfulness, giving greater offerings.
Right. And it's just so wonderful that Yah's ordained a way of worship, and times of worship in His Moedims. I mean, the Ten Commandments, obviously, and those, that's what we're writing in our hearts.
Yeah.
And how we are, He's ordered us, His bride, to approach and come into this merit and to be found worthy as a wife is through sanctification, through the appointed times that He's ordained, so that we are cleansing our garments through these appointed times. Because what we're doing in Shabbat is we're going back to the beginning, because He declares the end from the beginning. If you know that, I mean, you're not going to go to the beginning.
I want to piggyback what you're saying about Shabbat, because it's so beautiful, because that's one of the Ten Commandments, and it should be obvious to everybody that each of the Ten Commandments can be kept through love. And therefore, if we're called higher to love, that means there is an avenue to keeping the Shabbat out of love. It was intended to be kept out of love. And what is love? Isaiah, spells it out for us.
Yeah.
58.
I think.
And it says, don't do your own delights, don't do your own pleasures. Instead, prioritize your Father over everything.
Right. Speak His words
that day. And so, devoting a whole day of love, not doing things for yourself.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's an extreme form of love.
Oh, I love it. Hey, well, praise Yah. I know this is a lot.
Aha.
And Yah bless you. Shalom.